Let us pray. Almighty God, the creator and ruler of heaven and earth, we beseech thee to inspire and guide all our actions so that we may always walk in the path of justice, love, and charity to one another. Help us with thy grace to do only those things that will promote the unity, peace, happiness, and prosperity of Nigeria in general and Lagos State in particular. Amen. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. You are all welcome to today's sitting. Let us go through the votes and proceedings of Monday, 1st February 2021. Page 284. Page 285.
Mr. Speaker.
Yeah. Go ahead, Honorable Said. Oh, sorry, Afini.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I see my name appearing on absent, but I was present.
Yeah. We were here yesterday. Mr. Clark kindly correct that. Yeah. Who has the light at the back? Majid?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. My name appears under absent, and
Please,
I was there yesterday.
Clark, Honorable Tomo.
Same to me, sir. I was there yesterday.
You came late yesterday.
Yes.
286. 287. 288. 289. 290. I have examined the votes and proceedings of Monday, 1st February 2021, and approval is here granted. Any message from the governor?
Right, Honorable Speaker, sir. We received 2 letters from the Governor of Lagos State, sir. With your kind permission, I read. The first letter is dated 15th January 2021 and is addressed to the Right Honorable Speaker. The joint venture agreement for the establishment and development of Ilubirin Foreshore Estate by FIDC Real Estate Limited request for ratification of the honorable members of House of Assembly. The joint venture agreement for the establishment and development of Ilubirin Foreshore Estate was executed in November 2018 between the Lagos State government, represented by its investment holding company, IBILE Holding Limited, and FIDC Real Estate. The project entails the design, development, financing, construction, operation, management, and maintenance of the Ilubirin Foreshore Estate project and its ancillary facilities at the Ilubirin Foreshore area of Lagos Island. The project facilities includes recreation areas, parks, health and sport facilities, commercial facilities, and parking facilities. The state, by this project, intends to provide prime residential housing units, commercial, retail, and hospitality spaces for persons desirous of purchasing, letting, or leasing same. Phase 1 of the project shall be completed within a period of 10 years from the effective date of the project. This phase entails the redevelopment and construction of the existing structures and mixed-use developments, and the development and construction of new use development. Phase 2 of the project, the joint venture between IBILE Holdings and the FIDC Real Estate Limited, shall lapse 50 years from the effective date of the project. This phase entails the following: the development and construction of leisure and waterfront facilities, the development of a power and associated transmission and distribution facilities, and the development of an eco park and water treatment facilities. FIDC Real Estate Limited shall procure financing for the implementation of the project in accordance with the terms of the joint venture agreement. The project shall be executed through a special purpose vehicle comprising IBILE Holdings and FIDC Real Estate Limited, and the ownership structure shall be 24% to 76% respectively. It is noteworthy that profits shall be distributed by way of dividend in respect of each financial year. I hereby present a copy of the project agreement, implementation agreement, for ratification by the House of Assembly. Kindly accept my assurance of my highest regard. Signed, Babajide Olusola Lanre, Governor of Lagos State. Sir, the second letter is also dated 15 January 2021, and it's also addressed to the Right Honorable Speaker. And I read, sir: provision of traffic violation management by Lagos State to Lagos State by ATIJOHN Traffic Solution Limited. Request for ratification of the Honorable House of Assembly. The project agreement for the provision of traffic violation management to Lagos State was executed in December 2020 between the Lagos State Government, LSHA, and Mrs. ATIJOHN Traffic Solution Limited, ATSO. The project entails the deployment, operation, management, and transfer of a traffic management solution, TMS, that incorporates the administration of traffic violation, road user compliance, and parking administration, among others. The project shall provide a traffic management solution to Lagos State in two modules. One, a traffic violation module developed for the Lagos State Traffic Management Agency, LSHA, whereby ATSO shall equip LSHA officials with handheld devices that are able to capture traffic offenses in real time. And two, a vehicle compliance module developed for Lagos State Vehicle Inspection Services, VIS. By this agreement, ATSO shall implement a technology-driven traffic violation solution that will capture traffic offenses / violations, process the capture offenses, issue fines to traffic violators, offenders, and support enforcement mechanisms. The objective of the project includes a significant reduction in vehicular congestion due to increased compliance with the traffic rules and regulations, integrity in traffic management operations, the provision of direct and indirect job opportunities, revenue generation to Lagos State. Signed, Babajide Olusola Lanre, Governor of Lagos State.
Any other announcement?
Sir, we also received some letters from the Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice, Lagos State. With your kind permission, I read, sir. Thank you very much, sir. The letter is addressed to the Clerk, Lagos State House of Assembly. A bill for a law to amend the Mortgage and Property Law Cap MS Law of Lagos State 2015. The above refer, please. Further to approval of the State Executive Council at a meeting held on 18th of January 2021, the Governor has directed that the bill for a law to amend the Mortgage and Property Law Cap M5 Law of Lagos State 2015 presented on the floor be forwarded to the House of Assembly for consideration and enactment into law. Attached herewith are 60 copies of the bill and the executive rationale behind the proposed amendment. Please accept the assurances of our warmest regard. Signed, Mr. Muyosore Onigbanjo, SAN, Attorney General, Commissioner for Justice. The other letter is dated 28 January 2021 and also addressed to the Clerk, Lagos State House of Assembly. A bill for a law to amend the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, Law 2016. The above reverse. Further to approval of the State Executive Council at a meeting held on the 18th of January 2021, Mr. Governor has directed the bill for a law to amend the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund 2016 presented on the floor be forwarded to the House of Assembly for consideration and enactment into law. Attached herewith are 60 copies of the bill and the executive rationale behind the proposed amendment. Please accept the assurances of our warmest regard. Signed, Mr. Muyosore Onigbanjo, SAN, Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice.
Thank you. Petition?
None, sir.
Matter for the public importance? None. Personal explanations? None. Reports? None. Yeah, before the business of the day, of recent I've noticed the increase in call for state police. And, you know, it was when I read this morning from the newspaper that the former president also joined the train of our people, you know, requesting for the state police. In fact, it gladdens my heart, and I was just smiling. You know, if you remember, this house has always been at the forefront of state police, right from 4th Assembly up to this moment. There's hardly any assembly or even session that we have not made call for state police. So now hearing from everywhere, the former governors, the current governors, the former president calling for state police, it shows that this house has always been, you know, right on target and on the paths of truth and of major concern to the people of this country for the protection of life and property. So it is an opportunity for us once again to also join, because we are not going to stop until we get what we've been asking for, that there's a need for us to have state police in this country and in true practice of federalism that we have been preaching and that our constitution talks about. So if we have a constitution that talks about federalism, and yet it is difficult to put it into practice. And so when we have opportunity, people, notable people calling for the same thing we've been asking for, then we must also latch on that opportunity to join and keep calling for state police. The community police that was initiated a few months ago is not enough. It's not good enough for what we are asking for. What we are talking about is the state police that has and possesses wherewithal to challenge crime and criminals in our society. So it is my sincere pleasure that this House also called again on Mr. President and the National Assembly to ensure and make it possible the state police to protect the life and property of Nigerians. So those in favor say aye. Those against nay, the ayes have it. Mr. Clerk, as usual, please direct our resolve to Mr. President and the National Assembly of our interest in having state police. Thank you. Business of the day. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, good morning. This afternoon, we have 4 categories of nominees of government, of governor, for confirmation of the House of Assembly. The 4 categories are: 1, Lagos State Health Service Commission. Nominees are Dr. Mrs. Olayiga ATINUKE MUYINAT as chairman, Mrs. KEMI OGUNYEMI, Dr. MOBOLAJI OLUKOYA, Dr. OMOLARA SOLANKE, and Mr. ADEPEJU MUYIBAT ADENIYI as members. The second category, Mr. Speaker, is for Lagos State Public Procurement Agency Governing Board. The nominee are Miss Foluso Olayinka Onabowale, Mr. Foluso Akeem Mustapha, and Mr. Olusola Lanre as members. The third category is in respect of the IBILE Oil and Gas Corporation Governing Board. The nominees for this are Mr. WOLE OGUNSANYA, Mr. TOKUNBOH ISHMAEL, Mr. GOKE ADENIYI, and Ms. OMOLARA ABIKE CUDJOE-ALAKIJA as members. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we have for the Lagos State Judicial Service Commission, members nominated by the governor are Mr. Shupo ATI-JOHN, Mrs. Bamidele Akinyemi, and Mr. Sayinde Kazim.
And Mr. Mahmoud Daudi.
And Mr. Mahmoud Daudi. Mr. Speaker, to be able to take these nominees through the process of screening, I wish to move that Order 129 of the Rules of the House that admit strangers to participation be activated. I so move.
Honorable Victor Akonde.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion as moved.
All in favor say aye. Those against nay, the ayes have it. May I invite Mrs. Onayiga ATINUKE MUYINAT to step forward. Good afternoon, Mrs. Yeah, we received a letter from Mr. Governor introducing you to the House as a nominee of the Health Service Commission. And before you this afternoon, our distinguished members of Lagos State House of Assembly, can you tell us about yourself, your introduction, your background, everything?
My name is Dr. Mrs. Good afternoon, sirs. Good afternoon, sirs. My name is Dr. Mrs. ATINUKE ONAYIGA, and I am from Ota, Agbowa Ikosi, Ejiri LCDA ward. I have worked in Lagos State. I went to school I'm a Miss Animation, and I'm from Ekpe, Ward 2, and I went to school in Lagos and Port Harcourt for my primary, my secondary in Ibadan, St. Teresa's College, and then I went to University of Alexandria, Egypt for my medical graduating certificate. And I have had a master's in public health here in University of Lagos, and I've had other certificated courses in leadership. I've also been a member of the inaugural lawsuit board for 2 terms, and it's a statutory position. I have worked in the Health Service Commission that I am for close to 8 years as the Director of Medical Services there, before I was appointed as the Permanent Secretary for Primary Health Care Board. I retired on that position, and here I find myself before you now as a nominee to chair Health Service Commission. Thank you very much, sir.
Before I allow my colleagues to start asking questions, I think you have enough distance as being prescribed. I mean, the COVID-19 protocol from everywhere, so you can be chef so they can see who, maybe someone among them has cause to settle with you before now, so you will know that. I'm sure you are now seeing her face clearly. Yeah, very well. Yeah, you just mentioned to us that you went to primary school in Port Harcourt. You didn't mention the name of the schools?
Port Harcourt Primary School, sir.
Okay. Well, distinguished colleagues, standing before you is Mrs. Onayiga ATINUKE. If you have a question, I want to just to go straight to the question so that we can save time. We have a lot of them with us this afternoon. Honorable Laiwola.
Mr. Speaker, sir.
You may sit down, madam, to take the
Thank
question.
Thank you very much, sir.
We'll call on you to answer.
Thank you, sir. I want to ask our chairman, the WOBE chairman, why she did not include the primary school that she attended. The same thing, the secondary school. We don't have it here. Your NYC discharge certificate.
Sorry, do you mean the name or the certificate?
I'm talking of the certificate, sir.
Okay.
Then NYC discharge certificate, they are not included here. So then your marital status is not, is here as married, or to whom? Thank you.
Sir,
don't worry, sit down, just take the question. You take it, so you take all together. Yeah, Honorable Lowo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Madam, good afternoon. Madam, I know that you have really worked in Lagos State. I could see your resume talked about different places. What new thing can you bring in to resolve the health, especially public health issues? Because currently when you look at what is happening in Lagos State, local government and at the state, I think they are working separately. They are not integrated. What integration are you bringing in that will be able to serve the populace better? Thank you.
Honorable Abiru.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mrs. ONAYIGA. Yes, nice to have you here, ma.
Honorable Abiru, the rules suspend or allows visitors to join us.
Sorry about that, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. Nice to have you in our midst. Going through your resume, it is clear that you have served the state at different levels. And I want to believe that with someone like you, you should have a good understanding of the healthcare system of Lagos State. Very recently, the state registered some HMOs. And firstly, I would like you to tell us how best these HMOs can be utilized to ensure that residents of Lagos have access to healthcare services. Thank you very much.
Honorable Agunbiade.
Dr. Mrs. Solanke, you have been nominated as the chairman for the Health Service Commission, and you have worked in this area.
Where do you get Dr. Mrs. Solanke?
Sir? Sir?
Where did you get Solanke, Dr. Mrs. Solanke? I think this OD thing is just a serious problem.
Mr. Speaker, I am sorry. Maybe because I was busy looking at her face while she was presenting, I took the wrong. I'm sorry. Thanks for calling my attention to that, Mr. Speaker. Mrs. ONAYIGA, you have worked all along the medical sector. What is the major challenge you can identify for prompt attention if and when you eventually get the mantle, the approval of the House to head this Health Service Commission? The major challenge you have observed. Thank you.
Honorable Shao.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues. Dr. Mrs. ONAYIGA, well, your resume is full, so I must commend you. I must also commend you for the fact that you are willing to serve your state. As a chairman-to-be of a commission, which I believe is in charge of the welfare of staff, particularly in the medical environment, issues like hazard allowance and the rest of them, what do you think you will be able to add to what we have on ground? Of course, Lagos State has not been bedeviled with strikes and the rest of it. Thank God for that. But what exactly do you think you can do to improve the welfare and well-being of the medical personnel of our state? Thank you very much.
Honorable Tobo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Dr. Mrs., I just want to ask you that based on the experience over years, we discovered that some local governments that are far from the central, like IBILE, were usually short of staff. And the reason is that most staff were not ready to go and work in those areas. So how do you want to address this issue and resolve these problems of shortage of staff in most far local governments where most doctors and nurses were not ready to go there? So how do you address such issues so that we don't have it with emergence of your new as the chairman? Thank you.
Honorable Said.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Dr. Mrs. ONAYIGA, going through your resume, I found it of need to tell you that you serve as a meritorious permanent secretary of the Lagos State Ministry Primary Health Care Board. So at this point in time, where the whole world is confronting with challenges of pandemics, and we are having a technocrat like you who understand the rudiment, what the public health sector was and should be, with your wealth of experience from different schools abroad, and having a connection with some of your colleagues over there, what innovation or changes are you bringing to the Lagos State Health Service scheme in making sure that this becomes one of the most functional health services in Nigeria? Thank you.
Honorable Kasunu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question is actually centered around the combination of Honorable Isha's comment, Honorable Tobo's comment, and coincidentally, Honorable Said's comment. But as a rider to that, the last leg that I would just add to it simply is, it's two-faced. Generally, holistically, in the medical sector, I understand, or I'm aware, or have some little knowledge that there's a there's a shortage of staff generally. What changes do you want to bring in terms of recruitment process for a lot of medical line doctors and nurses who are willing to serve the state in general? How do you want to increase the speed at which the recruitment process is made? And secondly, I would like to, as a matter of fact, mention the fact that you have an experience in the infectious center and child care sector when you were working in the primary health center, healthcare center board rather. What are you going to do that is going to strike a chord with the development of the recent pandemic? How do you intend to create precautious means to counter, God forbid, I'm not wishing for another pandemic, to counter future occurrences like this? And as for the child care, how do you intend to aid the decrease in the mortality rate that we have within the state generally? Even if it's not directly your forte in that commission, what advices do you intend to dish out to those that are responsible for dealing with such a situation? Thank you.
Well, I think all the questions asked so far should be related to managing or impacting on the personnel, be it doctors, nurses, and others that will be working in that sector. So from our own experience, which she has acquired working as a medical practitioner as well. So how is it going to use it to influence, the serving doctors now and nurses and others, and those that will be recruited thereafter? So that will make it their function to be more positive and discharge their duties. I think that is what we should relate the question, those of the question to. Mrs. ONAYIGA,
sir.
Can you please respond to the questions?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. As I respond, I have the one question which actually bordered along not finding my marriage certificate there, but I think it's been addressed and attached now. And I have here another question that was addressing the health system, how I intend to, the HMOs that have recently been brought in to be part of those who will render services to the health system, were brought in there to alleviate the burden that the system already has. I cannot say that the system we operate now is a perfect system. It's actually a system that is overburdened and is an inverted triangle. The base is supposed to carry the weight, but right now we have the apex carrying much of the weight. So what I believe is that if the HMOs comes in, because part of the functions of the Health Service Commission is actually to integrate the public and the private sector such that delivery of services and access to health care by the residents of the state will be easy, and everyone doesn't need to crowd on the secondary or the tertiary facility. Right now, because of the background that I had in the primary, the secondary, and even the tertiary, my intention is that if we bring in hands from the private sector to join with the public sector, they would actually help in the spread of the accessibility to health care. I believe that we also have a body, the HEFAMA is part of the health sector reform law, that they are meant to regulate the HMO's practice before they bring them in. And I believe that will be done. We are also supposed to have supervisory roles onto people who offer services to our residents. So we would, in our own way, influence some of the things that are there. And if we see that there's anything lopsided, we would advise government as to which direction they could move to alleviate anything that is noted. I noticed someone asked me a question on the major challenge I've identified to push the service forward. One major challenge that I've identified is that the city we have is a mega city, and the burden of health is a lot. Health is such a substance that does not bring return on investments almost visible to the eye in apparent. A lot of funds are sunk into money without really knowing what. And so the major challenge is, how do we ensure that the 350, I think 4 now, primary health care centers scattered in the various LCDAs are functioning optimally? And that answers the question of someone who was there that asked the question, one of our honorables, that how do I intend to integrate all of those tiers together? I believe that if we actually make sure that both the primary, the secondary facilities are well linked together, we need to have linkages. How many health centers do we have in this local government or LCDA, which is a secondary facility that will serve in referral to those ones? Is it adequate enough? do we need to build one more, or do we need to improve upon the one that is existing? I think that will go a long way. Someone asked me, one honorable asked me, welfare of staff. Hazard allowance, never mind the staff. I think that should be Honorable Ishao. The hazard allowances, never mind, we are not striking now. The hazard allowance, what do we, with the welfare of everyone? So, well, part of the function of also the Health Service Commission is to ensure that the staff is a qualitative staff. It's enough, but we can never always have enough to meet what the demand is. But are they a workforce that is satisfied with what they are doing, that would want to give even more than what they have been called to do? I think there are so many intangible ways that we can help them. One of it is that hitherto, we have never had any housing policy that would house doctors inside as residents within the hospital. And I think the new thing that is happening now, because prior to this, about a week ago, I actually went around to some of our major secondary facilities, and I noticed that the resident quarters for doctors are being built in Epe, are being built in Badagry, and are being built in a major of our secondary facilities, such that we have doctors comfortably living within the facility that they serve, and they can actually not have the problem of, oh, I couldn't come in for call duty because I was moving from one area to the other. While they are on call, they can actually stay comfortably in there till the call is done. And beyond this, I think we need to actually quantify and find other ways that we could make doctors' allowances good enough for them to see that they're being paid adequate or remunerated adequately for the kind of job they do. Sometimes it's a little bit hazardous, as they've asked about the hazard allowances. Yes, we would look into that. I believe that it had actually improved, because my first spot of work when I came into the country was that same IDH, infectious disease, and I think I stayed there for close to 5 and 6 years. I can say the sultry amount of money that was paid, it has actually increased, but I can't say that that is enough. We also could insure these medical personnel in a group insurance, and I think that that will be further strengthened. Shortage of staff. Some of them are not ready to go to the far-reaching areas, local governments. Yes, it had been an ongoing problem, even while I was there as Director of Medical Services, but we had actually tried to help on that, to improve on that, and I think right now, most of where we used to call them rural, but we can see that with the kind of network, access of roads, infrastructure that we have now, we wouldn't call any part of Lagos State, and permit me if I can say that, as rural anymore. They're actually far to reach. So now, with the housing that we have tried to build in those areas in particular, I believe that if doctors are given residences within the complex of the hospitals where they are, it will help us a lot that they are not actually moving on an hazardous journey to their places of work. And if facilities are there, recreational, for them to actually relax, I believe that that will go a long way. Honorable Said asked about the pandemic and what innovation I can bring in, being a public health personnel, to make our health system functional. Oh, a lot can actually be done. As for the prevention of pandemics or future pandemics, I believe there's some infrastructural and technological developments that can be done. And I think with our experiences of Ebola, which I was still in service then, and even this current one, Ebola helped us to improve on what we are responding to now, in order to be able to respond to further ones, if there be any, God forbid. I believe that certain things are being put in place. There is a strengthening and upgrading of what we could do. Things that I believe we could do is first to go on a preventive line. I'm glad that Mr. Governor and this Honorable House, as in the things it was actually classified as health and environment. I think a lot has to be done in our environment where we can make it sustainable enough to ensure that people live in very sanitary, clean environment that will first of all help the burden of disease by preventing communicable diseases that we have a burden on now. We need not spend much on that. What the whole world globally is contending with now is pandemics of bioterrorisms and is the kind of things that we are faced with now. And I think the infrastructure that is being put in place in Yaba is very, very good and promising. They can improve, and it's still a continuous thing that they are doing right now. I also would like to answer the children, how I can increase the speed of recruitment process, and then the child care strike code. Yes, okay. I think I'll take it one at a time. Now, the improvement for the children were not left out. With the background on maternal and child health and how I can decrease the mortality rates for the children, I think one of the bases is what we are actually on the right path to getting that done. Already, most of the centers or most of the wards now, recently there was a new maternal and child center in Etiosa local government. There was another one that has been commissioned in Badagry, and I know that Ikorodu has. Ekpe also is going to get functional on maternal and child health. So, and it's going to be made, it will be such that they would be at a level of almost like a specialist care for children, so that if they are identified at the primary care level, they can be referred almost immediately. One of the beautiful things that also happened while I was there is making each hospital to have its own ambulance system, such that if there are referrals that can go between local government primary health care centers and those secondary facilities, the children or whoever can be there. I think in 2017, if I'm correct, I was on a project to get pediatric transport ambulances for children while they're transporting them to a higher level of care. So I believe that we will try our best, or I would try my best, to ensure as we work together as a team that the mortality rates for children are taken care of. The one important thing that also is very crucial is to train our staffs to be able to function in the way that it is expected of them, to be able to respond to care for each and every situation that is presented to them. That will involve us as a commission to ensure that they are well trained, and so that we can have qualitative services delivered to the citizens of Lagos. I'm sure I have almost exhausted the questions, but please forgive me if I've omitted any. No, I could actually run back on it.
Yeah,
thank you, sir.
Yeah, you have done well. But before I let you go, what has been your encounter with the House of Assembly?
What
encounter have you had with the House of Assembly? Have you any?
Before now, sir?
Before, yeah, before. Or what It's your view or experience of the House of Assembly, Lagos House of Assembly.
Oh, sir, I've had encounters with the House. I've come here when I was the permanent secretary of Primary Health Care Board, and I've never had any caustic experience. It has been wonderful, and I believe that Lagos State has always been a leader in being one step ahead of the curve, and I admire, to my admiration, the things that happened here in the House of Assembly.
Thank you. You may go back to your seat.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now, Mrs. KEMI OGUNYEMI. Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, you are welcome to Lagos State House of Assembly. I will receive a letter from Mr. Governor introducing you as his nominee to the Health Service Commission of Lagos State. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us about yourself?
Good afternoon, Honorables. My name is Mrs. KEMI OGUNYEMI Nigbajabiamila. I come from Lagos. My local government is Surulere 1. I went to school, I went to Corona School, Apapa, and then I went to Holy Child College, Ikoyi, Lagos, and then I went abroad for my A-levels. I came back to Nigeria, I went to the School of Nursing and School of Midwifery in University College Hospital in Ibadan. After which I did go back to England, and I went to University of Manchester, where I got my bachelor's in health service management. Then I proceeded to, and I worked there for a few years. I proceeded to America, where I got my master's in nursing as well as my master's in health service administration. I'm currently a doctoral student for the Doctor of Health Administration. I am a returning nominee. Well, I was at the Health Service Commission for 5 years. I finished my tenure in November 2020, and so I'm a reappointee, renominated member of the Health Service Commission. I am married to Dr. Femi OGUNYEMI, and we've been married for 35 years.
Distinguished colleagues, standing before you is Mrs. KEMI OGUNYEMI, and I'm sure you have listened to her. Honorable Fatai Majid.
Thank you, sir. While I'm going through your documents, I discovered that you did not attach your O-level certificate and your NYSC discharge certificate. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Victor Akondo.
From one of the things you have done. It's October 2014 to July 2015. Which policies are you intending bringing into force our healthcare centers meet up with the modern day realities? And again, I am very pleased to know that you have also partake in our centers. Have you been able to mark trainer center to our experts professional in diaspora? Finally, I saw that in 1999 to 2000, senior nursing clinical bone marrow transplant, whatever. I want to ask, how can the state benefit from your work when bone transplanting, bone marrow transplanting? Do we have any of it in Nigeria? If we don't, how can Lagos State be at the forefront? Thank you.
Honorable, put off your light, please.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I also welcome Mrs. Ogunyemi. Going through your CV, ma, I can see that you have worked more. Yes, you're a nurse, no doubt, but you have worked more in the area of cancer management, chemotherapy, and things like that. Now, cancer is one challenge I see that is quite expensive to manage and can be quite painful. I wouldn't know what you can tell us, how best, to avoid such an ailment, and probably when one has it, how can it be best managed at the best possible cost. I mean, thank you very much.
Victor asks about heart something, and you about cancer. Are both of you afraid of?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to say that Mrs. Ogunyemi is a returning. And when you look at the nominees for this Lagos State Health Service Commission, she brings a new dimension. Not all of them now are doctors. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm trying to say that when you look at the nominees in the Lagos State Health Service Commission, you will see that Mrs. Ogunyemi brings a new dimension into it. Mostly all of them are doctors. She is a nurse. We expect her to be able to take care of the nurses who have a very great percentage in the health sector. Secondly, she will be a bridge between the SYL Commission and the new commission. She will be able to bring them to speed on what was happening in the former commission, so that they will be able to come to terms with how to move ahead and tackle it quickly. And also, having been a former member, we do not have any adverse reports from her. And those of us from Lagos Central also are not averse to his nomination, and we want to...
Lagos Central doesn't mix the House of Assembly.
Yes, I know. But I said we are appealing. We are appealing to all of you, especially those from Lagos West, Lagos East, and especially from the Agege, for special reason. For special reason. No special reason. Because Agege is the head where we are now, and then we are appealing to you to please let her go. We do not have any adverse report, and then we think that she would be of a very good service to this commission. Thank you very much, Mr.
Yeah, I think I'll be relying on the submission of Honorable Eshilokun, because in her submission, she said she's being renominated, which means the House has cleared her in the last exercise. So faulting her now is like, finding faults in what the House did in the past. So you may go back to your seats. Thank you for coming.
Do you mind if I just say something?
Okay, go ahead.
Please. I just want to answer the question about cancer. because it is something that is actually very, very, very important.
Okay, go ahead.
I have been, I think the House had a proposition about starting a cancer center a few years ago, and I came here as well, and I already sent a message. But just to make the point that it's something that we really, really need to tackle and face. It is rampant. It is, our women are dying of breast cancer, which is the #1 killer in, out of the cancers that affect women. And yes, the drugs are expensive, but they're not insurmountable because we have different places you can get them in bulk. And also because we do need to train more people on it, because we do have a lot of patients. Right now, it's only the private sector that is providing the care, the best care really in Lagos State or in Nigeria as a whole. I just wanted to make that point, that it was a very good point. But yes, and we do not have a bone marrow transplant unit because we don't even have a proper basic chemotherapy unit in Lagos State in terms of under the government. So that's all I want to say. Thank you so much, sir.
We have a law on Cancer Institute. What is the name of the center? But I'm sure we have a law on it. I think as time goes on, we'll be able to implement the law and create a center that will take charge and interest in the issue of cancers. May I invite Dr. Olumuyiwa Solanke? Oh, sorry, Dr. MOBOLAJI Olukoya before Solanke. Good afternoon. Dr. MOBOLAJI Olukoya.
Good afternoon, Honorable Speaker, House of Assembly, Lagos State. Good afternoon, Honorables, House of Assembly.
Yeah, we received a letter from Mr. Governor introducing you as his nominee to Health Service Commission. Can you please tell us about yourself?
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. MOBOLAJI Olukoya.
And you will give us that privilege to see who we are trying to confirm his nomination.
Pardon, sir?
So you give us that privilege of seeing the face of the nominee we are to confirm.
Well, the face is a little bit different from when I worked because I've sprouted a beard now due to the lockdown, Ebola period, COVID period. So I look a little bit different. Good afternoon, honorables and members. I am Dr. MOBOLAJI Olukoya. I am a Lagosian, although I left out primary and secondary NYSC in my CV. It was just assembled on Thursday, Friday. So I make my apologies, please. I went to Comprehensive High School, Aitoro, and from there I got O levels. From there I proceeded to England, where I got my A levels. I came back to University of Lagos, and I got a degree, Bachelor of Dental Surgery. I did my NYSC at the then known Ikeja General Hospital, and immediately after the NYSC, I got absorbed as a doctor at the then Ikeja General Hospital, known as LSHA. I've worked on the field all my life. I started work as a permanent doctor December 1986 at KEMI Hospital, and I retired statutorily 2017. That is, I have worked about 31 years in Lagos State, and I think I should actually know where the foot pinches. 2 years after working at the KEMI Hospital, I was fortunate enough to be drafted to private hospital registration, PHRA then. That's the precursor to what we know as a farmer today. So actually, our duty was to go around hospitals, see how hospitals are set up, what is deficient, and the advice to give medical directors and all that. We had a screening, a proper screening book. Little did I know then that I was being groomed for further duty. I was at a farmer from 1987 to 2015. To 1995, 8 years. I think I got proper grooming in what hospitals should be, what hospitals should have, infrastructure, doctors, nurses, etc. I worked at KEMI General Hospital until 1999, from 1986 to 1999, and then I was posted to Bagada General Hospital, and I was there too as a doctor until 2006. I got posted to Ikorodu General Hospital. I was in Ikorodu General Hospital. About a year later, I became the deputy medical director. And it's there we conducted the Ikorodu Medical Mission, which was so successful. I think that's the biggest medical mission so far conducted in Lagos State, because it was for the whole senatorial district. I was the deputy medical director. I solely conducted it. September 2008, I became the acting MD, and I was confirmed as MD a few months later, December 2008, until 2017, August, when I retired statutorily. When I became medical director at Ikorodu General Hospital, it was a very, very backward hospital. I was always coming first from the rear. But it is on record that the hospital went through reformation and transformation, and the reward came at the first service charter that was done. The hospital came second in 2013, and I said to myself, so have we gone that far? Okay, we can go further than that. So at the first service chartered awards 2014, Ikorodu General Hospital came first, and we carted away 6 major awards out of 8, including becoming the best MDA in Lagos State. That is, out of all the MDAs in Lagos State, Ikorodu General Hospital was #1. And of course, we got the best hospital out of 26 hospitals in Lagos State then. Along too, I had on the CV, Best Medical Director, Best Service. This we retained for the next 3 years until I retired. Best Hospital in Lagos State. 2015, I became the Chairman Medical Directors Forum. 2015 until I retired. And is on record, I was able to, having worked all the way up and knowing our boys, I was able to call out and reach out that there is going to be zero tolerance to strikes and all that. So I called the our medical guild, doctors. Strike is going to be the last option. And is on record that from 2015 to 2017, August, at least when I retired, there wasn't any strike. And that was done through regular meetings with the medical guild. I, as the Chairman Medical Directors Forum, I got our doctors, we engaged other parties, and made sure that everything was well in Lagos State. And that's a brief.
Thank you. Well, standing before us, Dr. Olumuyiwa SOLANKE. OLUKOYA. OLUKOYA. Well, Honorable Agobiade.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I have a question for Dr. Olukoya. But before the question, I wish to attest that Dr. Olukoya, as Medical Director of IBILE Hospital, was very wonderful, very accessible, and always very helping, respecting status, and he actually transformed Ikorodu General Hospital from the appalling situation it was then. My question, Dr. Olukoya, with this brilliant performance that you have exhibited, with all these awards that you have said, with all this transformation, now that you have been nominated as a member of the Health Service Commission, what area will you urge your colleagues, if and when you are actually approved to be a member, to look into critically in respect of the welfare of doctors and nurses, which you have had opportunity to preside over their welfare as a medical director? That's my question.
Honorable Sholaja.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues. My own is more or less an appeal. And before then, let me first of all affirm what Honorable Majority Leaders have said and Dr. Olukoya. I was there
to take the questions.
I was there at the date of set forth, and I see a lot of economy that the nurses, doctors, and the people within the Ikorodu division done.
To your question, your appeal.
To him. Thank you.
We were not there. So.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is, you have done well and you have performed creditably, but the issue is that your duties is the promotions, discipline, vacancies, deployment, and some of the hospitals, they usually ask that the doctor is not regularly at their desk. And what do you intend to do with your member? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Olusola. Doctor, you may sit down to take the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is more of an observation, sir. Mr. Speaker, I was listening to Dr. Olukoya when he was talking. He eulogized himself, and there was attestation to his eulogy. But what he has done here, I think, is far from expectation. You see, this is the House of Assembly. Even if it's just 3 days, you need to come here with proper documents. Nothing show who you are here. No documents show who you are. Just to avoid reoccurrence. That's just my observation. Next time, we will not accept this from you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Tobo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I just want to ask from Dr. Olukoya. Well, one, you did not tell us your marital status. If you are married, then secondly, in the course of your, telling us who you are, you told us there was a time you worked in a private hospital registration department or thereabouts, and we observe that in Lagos today we have so many private hospitals who are like a dead house where people go and they come back, they came out dead. So what do you feel we should do to stamp the operation of quack doctors in Lagos State and to stop registration of hospitals that are not living up to expectations where people attend and they came out dead? So what do you have in mind? Having gone through those scenarios and gone through the whole gamut of health sector. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Jude.
Thank you, sir. Doctor, I just want to ask you, what difference will you bring on board to this your new position now? Now you are going to Lagos State Health Services. And two, how are you going to ensure that the medical staff turnover that is presently being experienced in Lagos State health sector is going to reduce? Besides, in addition, I saw in your CV here, where you talk about qualifications obtained with dates. You said Lagos State, University of Lagos. You put by the side BDS. I don't understand what BDS is. Please, can you explain it to me? And currently you say you are studying law. Where are you studying this law? And please, in a lighter mood, what is your interest in law as at now? Thank you.
Now you may answer the questions.
The Speaker, Honorables. So I'll take the question. I'll take the questions as I've written them. I am married. I'm married, happily married, with 4 children. See, I'm sorry. I only got 24 hours notice that 5 items should be submitted. I moved house from government quarters to my own place, and along the line, there's a file where my documents, qualifications, NYSC, CV, registration with the Medical and Dental Council, pre and then permanent registration, where they are, and LSHA. And I had to look for this. I think there was a little panic. 24 hours. The house has been scattered as I'm talking. And yet I've not been able to. I had to go for new certificates. Went for the LSHA. I got the LSHA about 4 or 5 years ago. I went for the update. And that's what actually happened. The CV was just drawn up, and I'm sorry I left out some few items. The primary school, the secondary school attended, and NYSC, and some other things. BDS means Bachelor of Dental Surgery. I got that at the University of Lagos. And to answer the Honorable Agumbiade, we're trying to get in each hospital an army of, because what service the hospital provides is actually what is pertinent. What are your services? We want to raise an army of service charter compliant members of staff in each hospital. They know what to do, and they can cascade whatever is needed to other members of staff. When you know that you have to come to work, timeliness is part of the virtues expected from service. Timeliness, you have to be, you have to talk nice to your clients. You have to be courteous. You have to treat your clients as kings when they are, and queens when they come to the hospital. You don't shout out at them. We have a good army where I left, but if by grace of God I'm on the Training of Health Service Commission, it is pertinent that in each and every hospital we have such that can actually raise the standard in our hospitals to loftier heights. That is what I think we can do. So when every member of all this rude culture, where you want to make customers, want to make clients, want to make them come to hospitals. Or it's okay, people say hospitals are not hotels, but you want to get them somewhere that everybody feels comfortable to come to hospitals. The ambience is good, from the reception desk right up to anywhere you go. Everything, you are drawn in, you are treated very well, and at the end of the day, you go to a pharmacy where there are drugs. Because by the time you go through every length and breadth of the hospital, you go to a pharmacy, and you only have you only have vitamin C and Panadol. That patient will go back and will not come back to the hospital. So we want to make note. What are the things our patients need? We study prescription pattern of doctors. We are writing about 5 or 6 things in our prescriptions. Our patients are only getting 1 or 2. And these 1 or 2 are not actually what is needed. So we want to look at the prescription pattern of doctors. You want to look at unserviced prescriptions. I am Mr. Bolaji. I come to the hospital. The doctor has written 6 things for me. He says it's only Panadol. So what are the unserviced prescriptions? That is, the other drugs that are actually salient. Why are we not getting them? That was what I did when I was General Hospital Ikorodu as the MD. We studied and we found out, okay, this we are going to incorporate into our essential drug list so that anybody that comes, you're hypertensive, you're diabetic, you're all this other, you get all your drugs. You get at least 5 out of 6, if you don't get all the 6. And the 6th one you don't get is still part of your unserviced prescription. We ask ourselves, why are you not getting it? So, by the time you come back within 24 hours, it will be made available. So by the time you come back, you've gone through general GOPD, you've gone through all this, you've gone through the casualty, you've gone through for ECG and all that, through laboratory, you end up at the pharmacy, there's a change. You get everything, or almost everything you need. Such a patient is likely to come back to the hospital. Those are some of the things we want to look at. Interest in law, I'm a son of a law family. My father and uncle, and luckily I've got a daughter who is in law, but then it is pertinent that everybody knows about the law. And that's why we are called, well, that's why we are here in the first instance. The law is made here, and that's why we are called law-abiding citizens. Because law-abiding citizens, we must know the law from cover to cover. Because as they say in law, ignorance of the law is no excuse. But are we lawyers? So, but while I was at the MD, a little background knowledge of the law actually helped the hospital to scale through most of our problems. If you don't know what the law is about, you can't really function anywhere. You must know about it. So it's part of what I think. If I'm lucky, I'm on board of the Health Service Commission. We want to get most of our workers to go through the law as it concerns jurisprudence, as it concerns working in hospital, as it concerns working in the hospital. Also, as for getting our staff, I don't think this is hello. As for getting our staff remuneration, we want to see workers in the health sector get their regular remuneration, get their regular allowance, call duty allowance. We want to make sure where our nurses and where our doctors, where they stay, is very, very good. Where doctors and nurses and other staff, laboratory and other, you must get them rooms befitting human beings and not dogs, like we see in some places. Where your local environment, where you work, if it's very good, you will come cheerfully to your place of work and you do your job. And that's it. And when you are paid regularly, because I said when I was chairman Medical Directors Forum, we engaged the Medical Guild and others, even nurses, we engaged them regularly, and we're able to stave off strikes for over 2.5 years. The idea is you judge with them, and then you go back to your ministry and say, these are what all these people need. It's going to take a lot of money, a lot of finance, but then if you can meet ourselves halfway, let them have this. This is what federal government says. If Lagos State can't implement, can we meet them at least half of the way instead of saying no? And it has helped a lot to stave off strikes. And I think that's about what it says.
Yeah, thank you. You may take your seats. That is not your seats. I invite Dr. Olumuyiwa Solanke now. Good afternoon, Dr. Olumuyiwa Solanke. I will receive a letter from the governor introducing you as his nominee to a service commission. Can you please tell us about yourself?
Honorable Speaker, sir.
Yes, sir.
Honorable members of House of Assembly, good afternoon, sirs. I'm Dr. Olumuyiwa Solanke. I'm of Lagos State. I didn't submit my primary and secondary school certificates and my NYC. They're not in my curriculum vitae. I'm very sorry, it was an omission. I actually attended St. Jude's Primary School in Butimeta. Thereafter, I went for my secondary school at St. Gregory's College, Obalende Ikoyi, for my O-levels. I also attended Igbobi College, Yaba, for my advanced level. This is where I had my basic primary and secondary school education. Thereafter, I proceeded to University of Ibadan, where I got my first degree in physiology. Thereafter, I came back to Lagos State University, Lagos University Teaching Hospital, LUT, where I got my bachelor's of degree in medicine and surgery. I also went to England briefly for 1 year, where I got my diploma in obstetrics and gynecology. And I came back for residency at LUT, where I did my fellowship in obstetrics and gynecology. I did my house job in Lagos State. I became a medical officer in Lagos State and also became a consultant in Lagos State. I became the medical director at Apapa General Hospital. From there, I proceeded to become the medical director at Badagry General Hospital before coming back to Lagos Island Maternity Hospital as the consultant gynecologist and medical director. I worked there for almost 10 years. At Island Maternity, I ensured that it became almost a tertiary hospital because we were training doctors. We got accreditation from West African College Council and Nigerian Medical Postgraduate Council, where we can have resident doctors and train them to become consultants. Some of them are consultants now in various hospitals of Lagos State. I retired in 2011, statutorily. In 2011, I retired statutorily in 2011. And thereafter, I worked in private sector in Lagos State as well. Before this, my nomination came in, sir.
Are you done?
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. All right, distinguished colleagues, standing before you is Dr. Olumuyiwa SOLANKE. So, Honorable Sadi Akolawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dr. SOLANKE Olumuyiwa, you are welcome. You failed to tell us what actually happened to your primary school and secondary school certificate. You only told us that it's not available. Well, what happened? Was it burnt in fire or you misplaced it or what? You should tell us that. 1. 2, no doubt, as a professional, you have made your mark. But administratively, you have been head of hospitals and all that. Yeah. We know you are full of experience. But how best can you bring that your experience to the fore, such that what we are experiencing in Lagos and even Nigeria at large, in terms of brain drain, you know, in the health sector, how best can you bring your experience to the fore to address this. It is no doubt that we are experiencing a lot of challenges in terms of brain drain, in terms of doctors flying abroad to go and seek for greener pasture. When you get to Lasut now, people that you met some 2-3 years ago, they will tell you they are no longer there, they have traveled. So, as a member of the health board, you have a responsibility in this regard. So, what value addition are you bringing to the fore? Thank you very much.
Honorable Kayinde Joseph.
Thank you, the Right Honorable Speaker. Dr. Olumuyiwa, once again, you are welcome to the State House of Assembly. My own question has to do with the attitude of some medical workers. In respect, you know, when someone is having a critical issue, that is when they always being referred to the general hospital. Then on getting to the general hospital, the next thing we hear them, they will tell you that you should take that person back to where you are coming from. Probably that they don't have where to put that patient. I expected them that at least they should first of all treat that person and give the patient first aid treatment in order to save life, which is one of the major points, cardinal point of the medical officers. So what are you going to do if eventually you become one of the members of the Health Service Commission? Thank you, sir.
Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, sir. Once again, Mr. Speaker, I want to seek for clarification because page 3 of your resume says that having worked for Lagos State government for most of your life, that you want to move to higher echelon. And the 3 places you mentioned, the second one is Executive Chairman, Health Service Commission. Now that you are not nominated as the Executive Chairman, Health Service Commission, I hope, my clarification is that I hope you give all the best and will not cause commotion in that commission. Thank you.
Honorable Isha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dr. Solanke, you're welcome, sir. I've looked through your resume. It's quite rich. You've been a medical director for the last, well, before you retired, for over 22 years, even the public and private sector. There's no doubt that you bring a wealth of knowledge and experience into the commission as a board member. I would ask you 2 questions. One is a clarification. The first one is, on your resume, you have visa status British. Please, visa status British. So, just note it. I would just want to understand what that means. And the second question I would like to ask you. The board, we operate everything, we're lawmakers here. So everything we do is with respect to the law. The law establishing the commission has given it functions and has also given it powers. I don't know if, I expect that you must have familiarized yourself with that law. Because I want you to tell us 1 or 2 powers of the commission that you hope to serve in. Thank you very much.
One of what? One of the powers of what do you call it?
So I want to withdraw the question. I should withdraw the question, sir.
I'm not saying you should withdraw the question. I didn't hear very well. That's why I'm seeking clarity.
Okay, let me expand the question so that it may be easier. The commission, as a commission, the commission has functions just like any board. They have functions, they have powers. So I was asking that you should mention one of the 4 powers of the
powers.
But I can expand it. Functions of the commission. Let it be powers or functions of the commission.
What is power? What is function?
Thank you, sir.
Commission, the State Service Commission, is it not to promote the sack and remove?
Sir, you're answering the question, sir.
No, I'm not answering the question because I'm wasn't clear about the question. That's why I'm trying to seek clarification.
Thank you very much, sir.
Dr. Solanke, can you respond to the question that's...
Honorable Speaker, sir. Thank you very much, sir. The first one was my primary and secondary school certificates. They are not burned, sir. I have them. It's just that I think, I'm sorry to say, I think I'd moved ahead and I felt that your honorable people will not be needing such a small thing. That's why, sir. But if you need it, sir, I'll get it for you, sir. And then the other question was...
Sorry, before you go further.
Sorry.
You see, though it is important, at least it's one of the requirements, to serve in any commission in Lagos State, at least the requirements must be same to the person coming to the Lagos State House of Assembly. And amongst the requirements, school certificate and non-primary. But when you see an elderly person who has passed out of primary school, only God knows when. And this is 2020, what are we? 21. Now you are now looking for certificates of 1950 something. You go and get investigators. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. The brain drain that is occurring is that, like we have said, the workforce, when doctors graduate and they become medical officers, some of them look for post of residency. And they are not available, sir. They are not available in our universities. They have limited positions for residential programs where they can become consultants and have their postgraduate done. So the few that are able to get into the universities to do their residency, that's why you see them becoming consultants. But the other ones, they want to go abroad and seek for greener pastures. Also, part of it is their welfareism. When the remuneration are not adequate, they are low, you know, and they have competitors in the market. They send their children to the same school. I think that's one of the things that is causing this brain drain. You know, I mentioned that I created residency program at Lagos Island Maternity Hospital. At least that one saved the doctors from traveling out to go and seek for where they can do their residency. They were able to do it internally and they became consultants. So how we're going to do to prevent much brain drain and douse it is that we see into their welfare state, how we can improve on their remuneration, their housing, their transportation. All that will come where you don't have doctors going to jump on Okada and all that. At least that one will brief up their ego, and it will stop them from looking for wanting to go outside. And you see, the outside people are also needing our doctors because they know the brain of Nigerian doctors are fantastic. The training they get is not by computer or anything. It's clinical practice. They do clinical practice. They don't need to go to any computer to make diagnosis. That's why they're trying and making them wanting to come abroad. So we'll try and make this place look more attractive where we can retain them. Now, attitude of medical workers. That is very, very bad, sir. Because what we normally do is, the first thing, if I get to the board, is to make sure I do attitudinal training with my chairman, who is also my sister. Attitudinal training is the best thing that can satisfy the patient and also satisfy whoever is attending to them. When you attend to patients in a subtle way, you are showing empathy, there's no way they will not respond to you and divulge information to you. And it will go a long way. For instance, referring patients to other hospitals, there must be communication. You know, this day and age, there's technology. You must have contacted the other hospitals and tell them they're sending the patients and they must not reject such patients. Even there was a law then in Lagos State in which you have to treat any patient that comes into your hospital for 24 hours free of charge and make sure you save such lives. So I think that answers that question, sir. Attitudinal training, we'll do that when we get to the board. The Health Service Commission, even though I applied to be the executive chairman, sir, whatever God gives me, I'm very satisfied. I would not usurp the powers of my chairman, whom I said is also my sister, Dr. Mrs. ONAYIGA. And you see, it's like putting a round peg in a round hole, because he has served in that commission for a long time. And there's no way where we should not work together as a team. Teamwork is the greatest that brings success. Thank you very much, sir. The time of British, why they put British, that is because I was born in England and I have a British citizenship. You know, you are entitled to dual citizenship, like you said. You be a Nigerian and also a British. But I'm a proper Nigerian. I eat amala, eba. Thank you very much, sir. Power in the commission. All right, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Take your seat.
God bless you, sir.
You haven't done with this Health Service Commission. May I now invite the nominees for procurement, starting with Ms. Foluso, Olayinka, Onabowale. Good afternoon, madam. I will receive a letter from the governor introducing you to the House as a nominee to the board of our procurement agency. Can you please tell us about yourself?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, sir. Honorable members, good afternoon, sirs. My name is Foluso Olayinka Onabowale. I am a chartered accountant. I started my education. I will start from the secondary school level. I attended Fuashaye Girls Grammar School, Akure. I attended Fuashaye Girls Grammar School, Akure. After which I proceeded to University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, to obtain my bachelor's degree in economics and social sciences, after which I trained to become an accountant, a chartered accountant. That was way back 1982. I'm now a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. I also proceeded to do MBA at the University of Lagos in 1989. And I'm a master's degree holder in banking and finance. On my work experience, I started work as a trainee auditor at Balogun ADEPEJU and Co. to train to become, as part of the training, to become a chartered accountant. After which, when I was admitted as a member, I left for Nigerian Industrial Development Bank, which has now become BOI, to serve as a project accountant. After which, I went to Nile Merchant Bank to serve in the internal audit department. I eventually became the head of internal audit, and I served in various positions in the bank. I became head of treasury. I became the assistant general manager in charge of HR, in charge of admin, in charge of and finance. I also served, after the my non-merchant bank experience, I became a consultant together with a colleague, and we were project managers for the implementation of the Oracle Financials in Lagos State Government. That was between year 2000 and year 2003. And we are proudly associated with that particular project, which is still running up till today. After the project, I moved on to GlaxoSmithKline Consumer Nigeria Limited. And I served in various capacities. First as a business process improvement manager, after which I moved on to head the finance. I became the director in charge of finance, and I then doubled up as the company's secretary. And after a time, procurement was added to my function. So I supervised procurement for about 3 years, and after which I retired, and I've been a financial management consultant since then. Thank you very much, Mr.
Our distinguished colleagues, standing before us is Ms. Foluso, Olayinka, Onabowale. You have a question, straight to your question, please. Honorable B.C. Yusuf.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is no doubt that the nominee in front of us is a well-experienced woman. But my question is, procurement at local government level, I think it's non-existent. How will you use your wealth of experience to establish a proper procurement at local government level? Thank you.
Honorable Kasumu, your question straight, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How do we trust you with your level of experience to secure the procurement procedure in the state in terms of bringing it to proper record and making sure that everything was actually, everything written out or applied for in terms of procurement was actually procured? What experience or what knowledge would you bring to fore to ensure that this actually happens? Thank you.
Honorable Iwala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I need to let our nominee know that what she has here are not up to date. And I hate to believe that our nominees are taking us for a ride. Because we have seen that the past nominees, so they have given us the reason why they did not bring their certificate. The same thing happens. You did not bring your school certificate as well as primary school certificate.
And I need to let you know that all these certificates are very, very important. If they are not important, I will have been asking for them. Then, I want to know the new ideas that you are bringing in. You are a team player. With the resume that I see here, I could see that you have risen from below to the top, and I want to know how you use your good office as the chairman of Procurement Board, if you are nominated, to carry other members along. Then lastly, madam, you attended 4 primary schools. Why did you attend 4 primary schools? Just let us know. Thank you, ma'am.
Can you respond to the questions, please? Go ahead and answer the questions.
Yeah, the first question here relates to procurement at local government level. From my experience, procurement activities and operations, follow some defined processes and procedures. And it only depends on what the entity is purchasing, what the entity is acquiring. So if they are just normal acquisition, I believe the same level of documentation, the same level of operations can also be applied to the local government. But if they are specialized, then such special policies and guidelines would need to be designed for them to recognize the peculiarity of what they are going to buy and the peculiarity of local governments. We would look at that and see how that can be done. On the secure procurement level in the state, how I can bring my experience to bear on that. Yes, procurement, like I said, is a very technical discipline and follows some strict procedures and guidelines. So for me, I want to recognize what has been done so far by the procurement, the PP as of today, and the assistance they have also provided to both the legislature in its oversight functions as well as the procuring entity in ensuring that procurement is done the proper way. But I would want to push more for standardization. I would want to push more for simplification of the processes without compromising controls. But once the processes are standardized and simplified, like you have a good format for certain categories of procurement, it becomes a lot easier for both the procuring entity, for both the buying public, the public that we are going to engage, for them to be able to follow through. And then for any supervisory officer or agency, it becomes also relatively easy. Especially, I would also want a situation whereby more and more of the procurement activities are computerized. It becomes then a lot easier, to get information, to collect information, to use those information for necessary planning, to use the information for future procurement planning and projections. That I would want to see take place. But procurement is a continuous improvement. You continue to improve on processes anywhere you find that there is a bottleneck, anywhere you find that there is an issue, that the agency would have to respond positively to make sure that such issues are quickly resolved. On the issue of certificates, I My school certificate is there. West African school certificate results is there. I don't know whether it could have been misplaced, but I have the original here, which I can present. Primary school certificate is a long time away. I have misplaced it. I apologize to members as far as that is concerned. I've talked about the new ideas that will be brought into the office, but I want to also say that I will not be the chairman of that agency. I'm just a member of the agency, but I will all work together as a team, as I've been working before, to ensure that the lofty ideas of the agency to support good governance in Lagos State would actually be brought to the fore. I'm delighted that the last S in the team's agenda of the current administration is has to do with security and governance. So procurement governance, I've situated it within that, and it will help us a lot if we have good governance procedures in procurement, especially towards the execution of the budget of this year, because that's where procurement starts. It starts with planning. So once the issue, the item that is going to be procured is in the budget, that is the beginning of the planning process, and that has to be disseminated to all the procuring entities so that there will be little friction and little drawback. On my primary schools, yes, I attended 4 primary schools in about three cities: Ibadan, Ado-Ekiti, Akure. It was because my father was a civil servant in the old Western region, and each time he's transferred, the family had to move. He was transferred from Ibadan, where I started from, to Ado-Ekiti to be a divisional officer. We moved, so I attended the primary school in Ado-Ekiti, Emmanuel Anglican School. So we moved. He went for his master's for about 2 years. That was when we had to go back to Akure, and I did some schooling in Akure. So when he came back to, when he finished his own master's, then to return to the civil service, he relocated to Ibadan. That was why I finished my primary school at Ebenezer African Church School at Ikotedo, Ibadan. I think that explains my journey. 4 primary schools. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, honorable speakers.
Yeah, thank you. You may take your seats. While I call on Mr. Foluso Akeem Mustapha. Hi, please introduce yourself.
Mr. Speaker, sir, honorable members, good afternoon. My name is Foluso Akeem Mustapha. I was born 24th of June 1969. I attended Adiola Odutola Elementary School, Jebode, for my primary education. I proceeded from there to Baptist High School, Obanikoro, Lagos, from where I went to Federal Government College, Odugbolu, for my A-levels. From there, I went to Ogun State University to study accounting. After my study, I started my professional career with Nigeria Merchant Bank, where I served and I was retained for a period of 2 years. I left there as internal audit manager. From there, I proceeded to Coopers and Librand, now PricewaterhouseCoopers. And I spent a month thereabout with Deloitte, Arkansas Williams, where after which my dad convinced me to join his own accounting firm, Olatunde Mustapha & Co. From there, in 2013, I joined some of my friends from KPMG and Deloitte to set up an accounting and financial advisory services company called OMC Partners. And we have been in private practice since then. In 2019, I was invited by the governor-elect of Ogun State as part of the Economic Transition Committee, where I was the vice chairman for the IGR and Tax Subcommittee. In 2019, July specifically, I was also nominated as member of the Lagos State Finance Committee, Audit Committee by the Lagos State Governor, Mr. Babajide Olusola Lanre. And I'm married to Mrs. Ibitokwe Mustapha, and I have 2 children. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, you have Mr. Foluso Akeem Mustapha before you. You have a question, please go straight to the question. Yeah, Honorable Said.
Thank you, Honorable Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Foluso Mustapha, page 3 of your CV, of your resume, I have it that you are once a member of Deputy Chairman Audit Committee, the Fourth Integrated Microfinance Bank Limited. What were your findings that led to the default status of the bank then? As the chairman of that audit committee, what were your suggestions to the board before that bank went down? And more so, if you got the approval of the Honorable House, you become a member of the procurement board, so that for such occurrences, what measures are you bringing in place, to readdress the wrongs of the past? Thank you, sir.
Honorable Abiu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Fellow members, good afternoon. What I have, firstly, Mr. Speaker, is an observation. And the observation is to the fact that the CVs of the 3 nominees for this agency is the same. And then they actually took the same pattern. It is a bit surprising to me, though I can see that there's a Mr. Foluso and another Mrs. Foluso. I'm not sure they are husbands and wives. But my worry is that I hope it is not the same person that prepared the CV. And the very first question to ask is, have you resumed as a member of this procurement agency? Maybe you all worked in an office together, you've been working together before the House called you together today for this exercise. That is one. Secondly, what is public procurement? Because as a government, I see this agency as being very important to government. And part of what I know is that there is what they call the APG, Advance Payment Guarantee, which is a certain percentage. I wouldn't know from your knowledge whether that percentage is good and sufficient for for the proper monitoring of project execution? If not, what will your take be? Thank you very much.
Answer the questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much, honorable members, for the questions. With respect to the Audit Committee for Integrated Microfinance Bank, I was actually a shareholder of that bank at that time, so we were nominated, 5 of us were nominated to represent Audit Committee. Our role was to have oversight functions regarding regulatory requests and also to see how the internal control processes are being aligned with best practices. Well, with respect to why the bank went down, it was more of unethical practices on the part of some of the management team. We did a lot of investigation at that time, but CBN had to wade in to ask the bank. But it's quite unfortunate that it went through that process. But we, as the member of the Audit Committee, we did our best. We provided recommendations at all levels because we were engaged with all the people that were involved in providing services to the bank and also engaged with the auditors at all levels. But unfortunately, we were not part of the people that nominated the auditors. But it's something that went the way it is, and we'll just accept it. On the pattern of the CV, Honorable, I don't know what my colleagues went through. I think I got a call on Wednesday night inviting us to this honorable house, and at that time it was around 9 p.m. and we didn't get the letter of invite. We got it through WhatsApp message. That was the next morning on Thursday, and that Thursday I already had a pre-arranged webinar in my office. So I was trying to look at how I could quickly arrange all these documents, 60 copies, to send to the house, the clerk of the house. But I got a call from PPA that if we had any challenges in preparing these documents. And because I had so many engagements that morning, it was pretty difficult for me to package everything at that time. We were given 3 p.m. to submit those documentations to the house. But luckily, the PPA wedged in and said we can scan all our certificates to them. And of course, I had the certificates I had in the office were those that are attached. And of course, I have my secondary and university certificates with me right here because I brought them along. Then Honorable Lowe asked me about APG. I hope I'm not missing anything else, sir. Well, at the Lagos State Process Committee that the governor nominated us for, that issue was very paramount, was one of the issues we discussed, because we noticed that so many projects were abandoned, and we had to wade into the reasons. There were so many reasons, but APG was one of the reasons. That the APG was 20%, and of course there will be counterpart funding from the contractor. And we know if you give someone a 20% advance payment, and he has to provide a bond to cover it. And we recommended, I remember recommended that APG was causing a lot of problems because most of them would have expired before payments were released to the contractors. So we made quite a very laudable recommendations to the government, which I can't confirm if it's being taken at the moment. But it's some of the issues that we looked at the committee, and we recommended that, number one, the advance payment needs to be increased to support efficiency in contract and service delivery. And also, we also determined that APG should be issued in line just at the point of making payment to the contractor. Thank you very much. I hope I've answered all the questions.
You may take your seat. We'll get back to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Mr. Sayyid Karim. Okay, Sorry not to, Mr. Olusola Lanre. May you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Good afternoon, Honorable Speaker. Good afternoon, honorable members of the House. My name is Lanre Olusola. I am a life coach, a psychotherapist, and over the years, I've worked with organizations and individuals to transition them from where they are to where they desire to be, and to help them attain peak performance and productivity. I was born and bred in Lagos. I attended OMOLARA Primary School in Onipan, Lagos. I proceeded to Igbobi College, Yaba. From there, I went to University of Lagos, where I studied structural engineering. I graduated in 1990, and I proceeded to serve in Kaduna, in Hassan and Partners, where I was offered to be retained. I gracefully rejected because of my passion and love for Lagos. And I came back to Lagos to work for a few years before I set up my own business. I've run my own businesses since 1993. And in the course of running businesses, have worked in different capacities for various organizations as performance coach, as executive coach, advising executive management, helping teams and individuals realize the vision and the mission of the organizations. In 2006, I was invited to serve the federal government of Nigeria. I went to Abuja to serve the Federal Ministry of Education from 2006 to 2008. I served under the Minister of Education then, Obi Ezekwesili. Within those 2 years, I worked in collaboration with the World Bank. I worked in collaboration with the DFID and the British Council. We superintended over educational policies and initiatives to improve the state of education then. And the project that started at the federal capital was extended to Kano, Kwara, Kaduna, where I also traveled several times to work. And when the project was concluded in 2008, the World Bank started another project in Lagos and in education. So I helped develop the program and initiatives and helped with execution for about 3 months. And from there, I started my private practice where I've consulted for various organizations from the not-for-profit to faith-based organizations, to banks, to oil and gas organizations, and to various other sectors. Thank you.
Yeah, distinguished colleagues, you have Mr. Lanre Olusola before you. If you have a question, please go straight to the question. Honorable Said.
On the 11th February, Mr. Lanre, we have an affidavit stating all the documents that were burnt, but the document was signed on 29th of January, and today it's 2nd of February. So I'm not finding it, I'm not finding it comfortable, how to conjure the two together, the timing, the time frame, because there's no way very vital document like that must have been, carted away by fire, and then suddenly when you are called upon, that is the time you are just making up the... And also, you are a professional life coach that has been a kind of interface with people. But this time around, your nomination is coming as a board of procurement, which means you are going to be doing more of the paper formation. And what kind of experience will you be bringing on board in making sure that this agency stand the test of time, in making sure that we have a very good and robust operation? Thank you, sir.
Honorable Council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As a writer to what Honorable Said just said, I could also see on page 29 that though your LSHA is there, but the registration date was 29th January 2021. Are you saying that you just became a resident of Lagos State on the 29th or somewhere around this year? That's number one. Then two, I can see that you're a project management graduate. How do you intend to use this to bring your expertise to fore in working with the Procurement Governing Board? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Still on page 11, I just need the clarifications on the paragraph 3D. You claim that you obtained your senior secondary certificate in the year 1983. And to the best of my knowledge, senior certificate examination started in Lagos in 1991 as against 1983 claim by you.
Honorable Naim.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues. I just want to ask that, what will you do to unlock the bottlenecks within the procurement process in all the ministries in the state? That is one. Two, and what will you do to make sure that all the ministries comply with the procurement processes? Thank you very much.
Honorable
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and my colleagues. Mine is an observation. I could see that you have different names attached to your certificate. If you look at page 24, the certificate that we have here, we have Lanre Olusola Lanre, and I assume Lanre Olusola is your surname. If you look at 25 too, the coaching academy that you attended, Christopher Lanre Kupoli, is what we see here. Can you explain to this house why this is so? Thank you, sir.
Honorable Sonny. I thank you once again, Mr. Speaker. I observe on page 11 in the affidavit that Mr. Lanre Olusola claimed to have bachelors of science in civil engineering. But while addressing the house, you told us you have BSc in structural engineering. Is there is a conflict? I want you to address it. Thank you.
Can you go ahead and answer the questions?
Thank you very much, Speaker, Honorable Speaker, and members of the House. As it pertains to the affidavit that is mentioned and dated specifically in recent times, just as my other nominees have said, the time frame that we were given, the messages we got, and the time frames to present the documentations were very short. And because in 2005, there was a fire incident when I was moving offices, and all my primary school, my secondary school results, my WAEC results, even my NYSC certificates, inclusive with my BSc Civil Engineering, that the Honorable Member of the House has pointed out, all of them were engulfed in a fire. And so this affidavit, because of the urgency of the presentation of the documents, was sworn, a few days ago. I've not had to present my certifications, my school cert for any interview since I started practicing on my own in the 1990s. So please permit me for that. Also, the LSHA registration was also quickly done. I've lived in Lagos all my life, and I just recently did that LSHA registration as well. For the third question, in terms of project management and procurement, project management is pretty much the management of projects end to end. Project management skills require that, from the point of procurement to the point of execution is carried through. And I plan to bring my competencies in project management to bear for the PPA agency to, first of all, look at the various processes and systems that are currently in place and to find the best way to optimize them and eliminate any bottlenecks to ensure that there's transparency and there's accountability and there's peak performance as it pertains to every project. And so to the question, how do you plan to unlock bottlenecks in Lagos? It is bringing my collaboration skills, my consultation skills, my ability to carry people along from end to end also my project management skills to bear to ensure that we eliminate any bottlenecks. As it pertains to my name, I was born Lanre Kupolui, and certain incidents happened in our family that caused us to change our name from Kupolui to Olusola. I have the affidavits, sworn affidavits for change of name. Unfortunately, I didn't bring it with me here. As it pertains to the last question, civil engineering, structural engineering. The department is the Department of Civil and Structural Engineering. The training and the certification and the degree is a degree in civil and structural engineering. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. You may take your seats. On the issue of certificates not being presented and reasons being adduced by nominees, I want to sincerely put that even though the letter of invite from the House probably came late to you people, but I'm sure the governor who happens to nominate you people must have informed earlier before the letter of the House of Assembly, because the letter must be written to the House of Assembly informing as I've informed you, that we got a letter from the governor. And I want to believe same that such notification must have been given to each one of you before date. So with that, as from the date of such information to the time you have been invited by the House of Assembly, you have more than enough time to have put together whatever you want to bring before the House. You have more than enough time. You have more than enough. And in a situation where fire incident happened, well, I think to buttress such position, there is a need to also have a letter from the fire service, corroborating such incidents, the year and the venue where it's happened. Coming up with this, I'm just saying this just to, I understand the fact the elderly people among that, well, even some of us that left primary school, late 70s, early 80s, still find it difficult at times to get some of the documents, particularly primary school, but it's something that one can always work around. Something you can always work around to justify that. And I'm sure in this part of the world, we all value certificates very much. We all value certificates. It's something that we keep preciously somewhere to avoid getting them lost or something. And our nation is getting to a stage where those who went to school are being alleged of fake certificates. Those even that went to school and that passed out and graduated are being alleged to have possessed fake certificates. I have been alleged same. So it is important. You see this incident here happening now. If any of you is being alleged or someone writes against that certificate or certificate is questionable, so it becomes so difficult to get the nod because you have something contrary to what you have said and you've not been able to present something that actually support your position of attending such school. So just this, by the way, so we take notes. For those who do not supply this now, I want to urge you to forward it to the House of Assembly. Now we move on to the oil and gas confirmation of IBILE Oil and Gas Corporation nominees. May I invite, I think two of them are not around. So may I invite Mr. GOKE ADENIYI.
Yeah, good afternoon. I will got a letter from the governor introducing you as his nominee to IBILE Oil and Gas Corporation. Can you please tell us about yourself?
Afternoon, Mr. Speaker. Afternoon, all honorable members of the House of Assembly present. My name is GOKE ADENIYI. I'm a geoscientist and I've practiced in the oil and gas business for the last 31 years. I also have other interests in finance and entertainment. My degrees are in applied geophysics, and I also have a master's degree in business administration from the University of Ife. Thank you. So, schools attended, sorry about that. So my primary school is St. Joseph's College in Ondo Town. My secondary school is also St. Joseph Catholic School, Boys School. University is Federal University of Technology, Akure, 1987. I graduated. And then my MBA is in 2000 from University of Ife. In between, I worked, I started working actually for a company called United Geophysical in Nigeria. I also then left United Geophysical to join Statoil, the Norwegian company, in '94. From 1994 to, I worked for Statoil in '94 to '98 when I joined Schlumberger, and I spent most of my career then in Schlumberger. I left Schlumberger in 2008 as their managing director, looking after Nigeria and also the Gulf of Guinea, which will be other African countries around the Gulf of Guinea. Since 2008, when I left, I formed my own consulting company called Lake, Seas and Creek, also looking at oil and gas. Some years after, I collaborated